We tried marching and carrying banners, but it achieved absolutely nothing.
Get off the pavement, please.
That is why so many of us have opted for peaceful direct action, to physically stop the lorries by putting ourselves directly in their path.
The point is to take action against something rather than continue with letter writing and having TV discussions about it. The point is to intervene and to be able to express your power in stopping something, and by the same means, by stopping something, you also start something.
Car pulling up behind me.
Okay, please do that.
When we arrived at the site and we found that the police were actually very close behind us, which we hadn't really expected. We had a police helicopter and a Land Rover was coming towards us, so we had to move very quickly once we got to the site and put on our clothing and then just start pulling up the crops as quickly as we could.
So you don't fear facing charges because of what you've done?
I don't fear anything because I'm doing this openly and accountably, and if people want to press charges, well, we'll see. You know, I'm not afraid of the consequences of bagging 25 plants.
Okay, if you could come with us now, please. You're under arrest on suspicion of criminal damage.
Okay.
There are questions, big questions about this technology. We should stop the tests and, you know, ask, is this necessary and is it safe?
You are under arrest. Yeah, if you hear me out.
I've heard you say you're arresting me.
Well, I can't add anything more to what
You know, I think this is so important that I'm willing to risk the possibility of a criminal record and imprisonment. This is so important to me.
At the moment, I feel like it's not over.
Please, just our joke coming.
Would you do it again?
Yes. Yeah, of course. We hope you're doing it too. We'll be doing it again. We're getting a hearing. Not sound and unnecessary.
Please. Shell off murderers! Shell off murderers!
When you've done all the writing and the telephoning and you've tried to get people to confront an issue and they're not talking to you, and their actions are having really quite awful repercussions somewhere, then I think it's justifiable to go into their offices and say, look, this is what's happening. Look me in the eye and try and understand what you're doing to somebody.
Could I explain to you that what's happening in Brazil is that their land is being trespassed and nobody's got time to listen to them?
Well, they said they've just come into the office. They'd like to inform us and our staff about what's going on in the Brazilian jungle.
Right.
And I've told them that we're very busy.
He has told me that he wants to get on with his business, and all I can do is to ask you, if you want to protest, by all means we'll allow you to...
No, I mean, his business is actually so seriously out of line, and I consider it to be so illegal, that we can't allow him to get on with it. I mean, you should be arresting him. As far as I'm aware, it's not illegal to just go into a place and confront somebody with something that they're doing wrong. I think it's civil trespass if they tell you to go and you don't go. But if your behaviour is courteous at all times, then there's not really very much that they could say was illegal.
But aren't you frightened at a personal level? Because there's always the risk of violence. I mean, it may well be that, being arrested, you could be hurt, etc. Or the farmer might react.
Certainly, and that, as a group of people, we prepared for months for our action, and that was one of the things that we really looked at a lot. We did role plays, we thought about how the farmer would act, we thought about how we would respond in relation to how he might come across. For example, if he was, going to be violent towards us, then we wondered and we thought how we could try and sort of calm the situation down.
Violence doesn't work. We've used violence as a species since time began, and violence always leaves somebody feeling disempowered. It always leaves the seeds of the next conflict within it. Non-violence is that, okay, you're not standing up and fighting back physically or psychologically or violently, but you're equally not running away from the issue. You're not trying to avoid it. You're actually engaging with it and saying, okay, this is a problem. It's not about denying that the conflict is there. It's about saying there is a problem here and what can we do to change it?
Do you think the kind of training you were doing today, that it actually helps in real situations?
Absolutely, because many of the people who come on the protests, whether they are prepared to be arrested or not, many of them haven't been in that type of situation before where violent things can happen. And by violent things, I don't just mean someone hitting someone else, I mean abusive language or shouting or throwing things. And in my experience, it helps people tremendously in looking at their own feelings around those things happening and how to contain it.
I think violence does play a big part in society at the moment. Maybe it's seen as a shortcut. It's people's frustration, it's people's anger. It's trying to get across something as quickly as they can. And for me, that is fundamentally wrong. I think sometimes you need to have a lot more discussion. There needs to be more understanding about where people are coming from. There needs to be much, much more dialogue. I think it's very difficult to be violent towards somebody when you actually know them, know them really well and understand where they're coming from. And for me, that's what we've got to do. That's the work we've got to do. We've got to get that debate happening, get that dialogue happening, and start acting in the way that we'd like to see society basically run in the future. And my ideal society wouldn't have violence in it. It wouldn't have the need. People could deal with those things in other ways. So
it's not a creative solution, is it? Just if we'd gone in there, shot the farmer, dug up the crop, gone on to the next one, did it all in secret, ran away from the police. I mean, the strength of our action is in the fact that we went to court, that we were public, that we could do lots of media work around it. And violence sometimes can work, and I'd be wary of totally opposing it, but we're on about creative solutions, and non-violence plays a role in that.
Perhaps we're not actually going to stop them making bombs or close the base by lying in the road or chaining ourselves to things, but through those actions, through going to trial, through going to prison, we'll gain publicity for the cause, so more people will know about what we're doing and why we're doing it.
I think it's very difficult to try and change somebody's point of view when they're scared of you. And that for me is the bottom line. I want to change people's minds. I want to change people's attitudes. And the best way for me to do that is to appear as a human being with them, to appear as though I've got a lot of respect for them, and to try and build that respect up. And you can't change people's minds eventually through fear and intimidation. It just doesn't work.